Hey guys, hello and welcome back to my channel. Hello. Hey guys, hello and welcome back to my channel. I hope I am audible. Hello. Hey guys, hello and welcome back to my channel. All right, I am audible. I'm seeing, just let me know in the chat if I'm audible and you guys are able to see me. If I'm not audible, do let me know because, yeah. Yes. So, welcome back to, hello learners, welcome back to class 3 of Power Batch, that is Global Perspective, IGCSE Global Perspective Power Batch, class 3. And last two classes, I believe you have attended. If not, you can check the link later in the live sections. You'll be able to find the link. And yeah, let's get started. Okay. So I can see, okay, there are 3 more minutes to go, but I will share my screen because if you had joined my last live session, there was a slight technical glitch. So just to keep that buffer, we will make sure that we do things a little early. I hope you all can see my screen now. Yes, great. And I am audible. Hello, 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 mic testing. Yes, great. And I am audible. Hello, 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 mic testing. Yes, great. Perfect. Okay. So today's class is we will be focusing on global issue research. Basically, we will be understanding what is perspective, what are different perspectives, how to write answers, what exactly you should know about perspectives. So before we begin, I will repeat my class rules. First, turn off all the distractions for next 60 minutes. Watch this class only on laptop or tablet, not phone. If you are watching this on a phone, please switch to laptop or tablet because only then it will be worth watching an immersive experience, and most importantly you won't be distracted continuously because it's a serious global perspective class happening here. It's not a casual video which you can skip and watch. So if you really want to learn from this class, you need to focus. Third most important thing is ask a lot of questions. Yes, ask questions, then discuss in the chat. We are we are first of all learning global perspective. It requires learners to actively engage, reflect in the class, and hence for me as a facilitator to understand whether I'm able to guide you right and for you to reflect upon your learning through this class, it's crucially important for you to make sure that um, that you reflect in the chats. Take notes. I hope you all have made a separate notebook for global perspective power batches and all the assignments that I give in today's class. So today you have a very, I would say, good worksheet. The reason I'm saying it's a good worksheet because I have covered every single skill you need to develop in terms of the learning objectives that we are going to address today in the worksheet. It's a comprehensive worksheet that we are going to look at today. Okay. Now, moving to the next slide, that is what are the learning objectives for today. So, the first learning objective for today's class is to understand what is a perspective. Although, as a global perspective learner, you might have heard about this, you might have heard about this word perspective quite a number of times, but now, today, we will understand in context with your global perspective subject, and especially in context with how to interpret the word in your questions, how to utilize the right understanding of this word in our responses and reflection. Second learning objective for today's class is going to be how to distinguish what is the difference between local, national, and global perspective. Okay. If you all are with me until now, give me a thumbs up in the chat so that I know, yes, it's clear and understood today's learning objectives. All right. Okay. Now, what can you expect by the end of today's class? By the end of today's class, as I mentioned earlier, you will need to answer a comprehensive worksheet designed to assess and polish your skills that you will end up learning in today's class. That is how to based on perspectives, local, national, and global perspectives. All right. Now, in the chat, quickly type the device you're using for this power batch, for this power class. Hello? Hello? Yeah, I'm audible. I have to keep on checking if I'm audible. All right. So, guys, now I have been talking about quite frequently through this YouTube channel that we are here with an intention of helping. I am here with an intention of facilitating A star results for IGCSE Global Perspective Learner. And while I was designing this whole lesson or this complete plan for y'all, I have broken it down according to Bloom's taxonomy. That is, you all know. If you know, great. If you don't know, you can after the class Google it what it is exactly. The basic is knowledge. The second level is application, and the third level is creation. So any learner who ends up reaching up to the level of creation is the learner who is able to apply his or her skills very well. So it's just like, to give you an analogy, the basic level is to learn different techniques of surgery. The application level is to watch surgeries, and the creation level is to do surgeries. That is how it should be designed to develop the skills required to get an A star in global perspective. So today I'm going to also share with you what is A star global perspective roadmap. So as I mentioned, there are 3 levels in this roadmap that will guide you to get an A star in IGCSE global perspective. The first level is your foundation level, the second level is your application level, and the third level is your creation level. Now, when we talk about the first level, that is your foundation level, what it is exactly. This is today's class. Tuesday's YouTube Live. IGCSE Global Perspective Power Batch. That is the foundation level. That is when I teach you the basics of global perspectives. I focus on concept clarity, on understanding the mark scheme for global perspective. I focus on breaking down different question types and how to answer them. I focus on building academic vocabulary for global perspective. That is what we cover during our Tuesdays YouTube live IGCSE Global Perspective Power Batch. And once you are consistently joining and learning from Tuesday's batch, you will end up making sure that your foundation for IGCSE Global Perspective is up to the mark. The second, and now to join this foundation, you have to foundation level learning, you have to simply subscribe to the channel, click on that notification button so that you are notified every time I set up a schedule to go live. Once you see the schedule, you have to click on notify, because many a times I've observed since past two classes that students are not are watching the live classes once I upload the recording, but somewhere down the line they are I believe that they are not notified that they are supposed to join for the class right now. So for that reason you need to click on that bell icon. That's crucial, that's important. Now moving on to the next level, that is application level. Now how do I build your application level skills? For that I have created and curated the level 2, which is Saturday's members only YouTube live IGCSE Global Perspective Stalwarts Batch. Now, what do I do in this live classes every Saturday? So, if you are a member, you can join the class live, or you can watch the recording similar to what you can do for Tuesday's live. But obviously, it is recommended for you to join classes live, because then we will end up interacting live. So I focus on members only live classes every Saturday, a full answer breakdown of all the worksheets that I am assigning in the class. Then practice worksheet answers are discussed in this Saturday's class. Examiner style marking scheme, we discussed that. And we majorly focus on application based learning, how to apply all the concepts you have learned in your foundation batch in your paper. That is what we learn in your Saturday's batch. Now the third is your, now okay, yeah, to join this application batch you have to simply click on that join button. Right now you can see how it looks like. So if you see the join button, you have to click there and subscribe to the membership so that you are notified about all the Saturday's class. Now the third level is creation level, and here is where I create my A-star students. So it is a badge wherein I focus on your individual report, personalized feedback, regular assessment to check your progress, and I create A-star level responses from my learners. Now, obviously, because of the limited time availability, there are limited seats. It will be a cohort of 5 to 6 students in each batch. And again, I have kept a small screening to select the right students for each batch. So these classes will be like on Google Meet directly with me with less number of students. It's more personalized because, as I mentioned, here is where I fine tune the learners to an A-star level. I hope I'm clear. And to join this batch, it is going to start from April 2026. Now, there are many students. If you are interested in joining this batch, I will be sharing a Google form link in the description. You have to fill in that form along with a screening question. Now, based on the question, the answer you write, you will be screened to make sure that the right student is placed in the right batch, right cohort of maybe five. I have kept it, kept the capping around 5 to 6 students maximum. That is what it is. And it is going to be intense, personalized, individual report mastery marking, one-to-one, regular assessment, and creation of A-level responses. So that is your A-star legacy batch. Now to join that, you have to fill in the Google form, which I'll be linking in the chat here, and also I will add that in the description later, which you can check and you can fill it up. All right. Now we are going to start with today's class, that is, what is a perspective. We will be learning this subject, which is, I would say, one of the most scoring subject in your IGCSE curriculum. And why I'm saying that, because this subject, 130 marks of this subject is individual report and team project, which you do in the span of 2 years, and you have opportunities to keep on refining it, so that 130 marks is completely in your hand. Okay, so now when we talk about what is perspective, there is this first thing that I'm sharing on my screen. Can you all see an image right now? So I want you to answer in the chat here, what do you see over here? A duck or a rabbit, and why? You have exactly a minute to answer. You have to answer, what do you see in the image? Is it a duck or a rabbit, and why? And you have exactly a minute to answer. Think about it. If you're writing a duck, why do you think it's a duck? And if you're writing it's a rabbit, why do you think it's a rabbit? Okay. If you're watching this recording after this class, after as a recording, not a live class, still I would expect you all to answer in the comments below. All right. So when you answer this, what did you focus on first? That is the first question I want my learners to answer. So let's say if I am looking at this image, and what I personally focused on first is this reflection of a duck. That is what I personally focused on. And secondly, I also thought about that rabbit will drown like this. It can't float on water. If there is a reflection, it is either on water or on a mirror. But looking at the image, it looks like it's a water. And rabbit cannot float like this on water. So most probably it's a duck. That is my justification of this image. If you have any other justification, do let me know in the chat. What do you think it is? What do you observe first? Is it a duck or a rabbit? And why? Now, that is how, what is perspective? Perspective is how someone interprets something based on what they notice. That is attention and focus. What I noticed, I noticed that there is a reflection, it's on water, and rabbit cannot float on water, whereas duck can float on water, and duck not don't it swims in on water, and hence it's a duck. What they already know, yeah, my knowledge about floating and sinking, that is my knowledge or my experience. What information or context they have, that the information that I have is okay, okay, there is a what, there is a lake or something, or might be if somebody tells me, okay, no, in this image there is no lake, there is a mirror, or there is some other reflecting surface, then my answer might change. Hence, my knowledge about that particular thing also matters. What information I have matter. And what I assume, as I mentioned, that I assume that it's water surface. And hence, I feel it's not a rabbit, it's a duck. So that is exactly what perspective is. Many of you might have a different answer. Some might say, no, no, it's a rabbit and it can be a, because if you clearly notice over here, we have eyes and we have, or maybe you don't have an image. It's not reflection of anything. It's an image of a duck as a reflection, but originally I can see a rabbit, which is also right, provided that you're able to justify what you're saying correctly. So, perspective is, to summarize what we understood from this small trigger or activity, is perspective is how someone interprets something based on what they notice, what they already know, what information or context they have, what they assume. That is perspective. And in global perspective, to be precise, there is often not one single correct viewpoint on complex issues. Now, obviously, in your paper, you won't have issue like this, like identify what's a duck, whether it's a duck or a rabbit. Rather, you will have different sources, rather, you will have more complex issues to look at. However, you have to understand when you're looking at four different sources in your question, in your insert for global perspective, you are looking at each source from different perspectives, and hence you can never say without a clear argument. When I say argument, let me reiterate that argument is always a point supported by evidence and facts, whereas claim is a point that is made based on just vested interest, or I would say personal values and belief. A claim might or might not be true, but argument is more towards the um, more believable context, I would say, because it is supported by facts and figures. So, in global perspective, there is often not one single correct viewpoint. Unlike other subjects that you do, you might have one single. So, 2 plus 2 in mathematics will always be 4. It can never be 6. But in global perspective, your viewpoint doesn't matter because each child can write different perspective. What matter is how strong your arguments are. Hence, the most important skill that you as a learner will develop is your argument strongly. That's all. Whether it is a team project, whether it is individual reports, or whether it's your written paper. Component 1 is written paper, component 2 individual report, or component 3 which is your team project. I hope I'm clear until here. Now, so the strength of argument, please excuse me for this misalignment of thing on the presentation. I So the strength of an argument depends upon the quality of evidence, whether you actually have some source stating that no, the image that you showed me right now is an image of a rabbit sleeping. I'm talking with respect to this image that we started with, and the bottom part wherein it is the illusion is like reflection of rabbit. It's just a sticker, it's just a photograph. If you have some strong credible source to prove this evidence, you might be able to prove it. It also talk about the logic and the reasoning. I said that rabbit can not float on water and all of that. That's the logic and reasoning and how well I'm able to justify what I'm saying. Use of reliable sources. It's crucially important. For example, you get an information of help from a random unqualified health blogger versus a qualified, verified, credible surgeon? Whose source of health information will you believe in? Of course, surgeons. Why? Because you have seen the qualification, you have seen the credibility, you know the certification. And yes, when I say surgeon, nobody can come and claim, okay, I'm a surgeon. Still, you have to ask, you have to question. And that is the other skill that Global Perspective wants you to develop: analyze, evaluate. Third important factor to consider while presenting a strong argument is consideration of the counter argument. You have to think about other person's perspective while you are putting forth your perspective. You can't turn blind towards some other person's perspective, and you have to take into consideration and then prove it from their perspective in your answer, that why you agree that it can be, maybe it can be water, but looking at the image it's clearly evident that the beak is mustard yellow and the ear is reddish in color, it's pink in color. So you are addressing the counter claims in the argument, and that is also important in developing a strong argument. As I said it, that when I say developing a strong argument, it is the most important skill that will help you get maximum marks, that will help you develop the right skills required for global perspective. And the last one is awareness of assumptions and bias. So, when you are aware of what is the assumption, what is the bias, vested interest, you are aware of how things are working, you have to also reflect it in your writing in global perspective. I hope I am clear until here. Now, always remember your conclusion, your personal response must be reasoned and evidenced, and you must show you have considered other perspectives. And that is how you position your argument in perspective. Okay, now when I say that, you might think about what are the steps to do it, how to do that, how exactly to write a strong argument. And that is what I'm going to show you in further classes by breaking it down. Rather, in today's class, also I have broken it down with the right template of sentences, which words to use, what are the different structures. I'm not talking about English, I'm talking about global perspective. Even if you're weak in English language, you still can be a topper in global perspective, because global perspective doesn't test your vocabulary skill, it tests your evaluation and analytical skills. That's all. And to do that, you should know few keywords which will help you to frame the right answer. And most importantly, you should be aware of where to use those keywords. We have already talked about a lot of keywords in the first two classes. If you are joining now, I would request you to please make sure you watch those classes as well. And if you're a member, we had also extensively discussed, while we discussed the worksheet in Saturday's GP Stalwarts class last week. Now, let's understand what is IGCSE style justification structure to show a strong argument. I would say just this is not even a teaser, it is just a glimpse. But it is very important to develop your understanding of how to write the sentence. First, we will learn how to write different sentences, and then we will focus on how to write a paragraph or a point. Okay, now the first word is which you can use to justify is my claim. You have to put forth your claim. In my view is, I can see a I can see a duck. That is my view. That's a claim without any justification. The second step is to write a great argument is why. Why do I see a duck? Because rabbit cannot float on water. That is the second reason. Now, if I talk about evidence, for example, from the image, as you can see, that it's water surface, and rabbit is floating. So I do not see the uh, rabbit over there. I can see a duck. That is evidence. And fourth, counter view. Some people may argue, or another perspective is it's a rabbit. It's a rabbit, and I do not agree to that point, or maybe it's a rabbit. It is not justified because there is no point mentioning that it's not water surface and it's a sticker or it's a photograph. Guys, if you're joining right now, you need to watch the whole lesson to understand what I'm talking about. Otherwise, you won't be able to connect to the context of the conversation right now. So please go back, watch it all, and then come to this part. So counter view is another perspective is. And judgment, I still think because. And that is how you frame your best argument. You can restructure what I said just now. It need not be 1, 2, 3, 4. But when I have arranged and given it to you, that is claim, reason, evidence, counter view, and judgment, that helps you to frame the a great argument. An argument is the crux of your skill development. I mean, developing a great argument is a crux of your skill development in global perspective subject. If I'm clear until here, and if you have actually understood what I'm saying, give this a thumbs up, a like. Although it's not a major validation for me as a facilitator, but this channel gets validated for YouTube algorithm if you give a thumbs up, and that is kind of a reward for the efforts that me and my team do take. And if you really want to be learning a lot from this class, make sure you put things out in the chat, you reply, give a response, and I'm very active on chats on this channel. I'm very active on the actively going through the comments and things like that on this channel. This is like my classroom. This is like my open digital classroom. Now, moving on to the next part, that is local perspective. When we say local perspective, what do you mean exactly? Now, in the chat, write your city's name. Which city are you guys from? Now, there are students from Indonesia in Google Classroom. I know that because I have interacted with them. I know there are students from Malaysia, there are students from Nigeria, there are students from India. So if you observe, there are students from different countries. And yes, also Lina, she has written Jakarta, yes. Now, after you have put down the name of your city, right? Think about it, just this question. Students should be allowed to eat lunch outside the school building. What do you think and why? Let me know in the chat. You have to think from your school's perspective. I'm not talking about a general case. I'm talking about that is the reason I asked for your cities. You should be thinking from your own school's perspective that they should be allowed to eat lunch outside the school building. If yes, why? If no, why? Just write that in the chat. So, when students from different countries, different cities in the same countries are answering this question, there are multiple factors that every child will consider. One could be the security. If my school is closed, enclosed, if it's open, there could be security lapse. Okay, why do you think, or Selena, why? What's the reason that you think it should be allowed? With clear rules. And why do you think there are clear rules for this? So second reason could be you can think about the weather. If it's a country, it's a tropical country, you can still say yes. But it's a country where the temperatures are in negative. Do you think it's valid to send a child outside the class to eat tiffin? Absolutely no. In Canada, no, it won't work. In Norway, in different countries with colder weathers, it won't work. If you think from a perspective of security, it again depends. So, yes, I'm still waiting for your answers that why. So, you have to think from what works for your school. Should student be allowed to eat lunch outside the school? If yes, why? If no, why? And when you say with clear rules, what rules? Now, as I said, how does where you live and go to school affects your opinion? That is what our focus will be on. Now, as I mentioned, a child living in colder regions eating lunch outside, it won't be a great idea with a tight security, won't be a great idea. But with a rural school with a lot of trees outside, it is a great idea. In a canteen, it might not be a great idea if you have a school canteen or a boarding school. So, if you observe, if you look at this image, look at it from the perspective of different child from different cities in different countries. I would say in the same countries there can be all five conditions. In a country like India, there can be urban school, high security schools, again colder areas like Himalayan regions and tropical areas like Kerala. So, in the same country, also, it can be all five perspectives. And what would someone need to know about your local situation to understand your viewpoint? If I'm saying yes, it is possible, but a child sitting in Canada, they might think no, it won't be in Toronto, no, because they cannot allow us during winters. It's freezing cold over here. So their perspective, they should be able to understand my local perspective for a for me sitting in India in Maharashtra while delivering this class. What are the weather conditions over here? How big is the campus? How is security level in the school? How secure it is for students to go out and eat lunch. I'm not talking about going outside the school, maybe with rules, as Ursulina mentioned. And that is what is exactly local perspective. Local perspective is the viewpoint or opinion someone develops based on their direct personal experience with an issue, situation, or place. It's shaped by their immediate environment, daily reality, cultural context, and proximity to the topic at hand. Now, when I talked about this issue, I was thinking of a school situated in Maharashtra, in Pune, in the city of Pune, the weather conditions over here, the type of school. But if some other child sitting in Toronto, some other child sitting in Nigeria, a person sitting in Jakarta, they will have a completely different perspective based on their personal experience, issue, situation, place. It's not only about weather, it's also about personal experience. Now, as a global perspective learner, we should be able to appreciate this local perspective and reflect upon it in our answers, especially in individual reports, especially in team projects. That is important. So, I hope now the understanding of local perspective is crystal clear. Obviously, we are going to look at different ways how to frame and present your argument for a local perspective. But first, we will focus on understanding the perspectives. Now, when I say national perspective, my question for you all is, should schools in your country have policies allowing students to eat lunch outside the school building? Now, please note here the perspective completely changes. Initially, I was looking at a school in Pune in India, but now my perspective will be considering different schools in the country, India, with different variety of schools, infrastructure, and also weather conditions, security levels, and I would say how people are used to in that particular school. And maybe then I will also talk about the policies, as also Rina mentioned, with clear rules. What are the different rules that I'll put in place for a country like India? There might be different rules for a country like Indonesia. There might be different rules for US, different rules for UK, so on and so forth. And when we think, so when you're answering this question, what I want you to do now is you have to take these points into consideration. What would be best for schools across your entire country? Make a note, you're not considering only your city or your school. What challenges might schools in different parts of your countries face? So there won't be one rule that fits all. You might have some guidelines. And what national concerns should influence this policy? Now, what I want you to do is I will give you around 2 minutes to answer this question from these three angles in the chat, and then let's discuss different responses that we get. Different responses that we get. All right. So now, okay, now that takes me to the next point. That takes me to the definition of national perspective, that it is the viewpoint shaped by considering country-wide systems, values, climate, law, culture, and resources that affect how an issue impacts an entire nation. Now that reminds me of a comment I recently read on my channel. That is, I am from a particular country, but I want to write national perspective for a different country. So that was a valid question actually. So my answer to this is, see, whenever you are answering from a national perspective, you should have some knowledge about the conditions, the real conditions, just beyond the books, just beyond internet. You should have seen people, you should have experienced people, you should be the part of it. So it is not recommended to use a different country to put in national perspective. I hope I have answered this question. And yes, also Lena has written, schools across the country could allow older students to eat outside. Amazing answer, but with strict national rules. Younger students should stay on campus for safety. Challenges may differ by area. Big cities may face traffic and security risk, while smaller towns may have limited food option. National concerns like safety, supervision, and equality should guide the policy. Great. And there could also be one more point added. Maybe schools can submit a blueprint or the plan of how they will be executing this policy of allowing students to eat outside school building, and how it will be executed, and how these points that also Lena has mentioned will be taken care of. Now that takes me to the next point, that is your global perspective. So as I talked about one comment that was recently there on one of my video, that can I take a different country? Now that different country will come under global perspective. So when I talk about global perspective, it is how should the global education community address outdoor eating spaces in the school worldwide. So here you will not only think of a particular country or a city, you will take into consideration different countries, different weathers, different curriculums, different infrastructure, different mindset of people while framing a policy. And that is what happens in UNESCO maybe. There are representatives from different countries taking into consideration different types of conditions in their respective countries from national level and framing a policy for global level. And that is how you put forth your answer also, that what challenges do, so I want, while you write this answer, I want you to address these pointers. What challenges do schools face worldwide regarding students' eating environments? What global resources or knowledge could help schools everywhere? What should the international education community prioritize? When we talk about these three questions, we are not only guiding your answer, but we are not only writing a response, rather, your brain will start thinking from the global level of how it works. Okay, waiting for your answer in the chat. Come on, learners, if you don't write the answers, you will never be able to gain a lot of learning from these classes. Yes, great. Also, Lena, have received your answer. So she says schools worldwide face issues like overcrowding, safety concerns, limited space, weather conditions, and unequal funding. Very good. When creating outdoor eating areas, okay, that is when you have answered the first point. Okay, waiting for your responses in the chat. Also, Lena has answered, I believe. You all are framing the response for these pointers that I've put up, that I have displayed on the screen. The second one, Orsolina answered, is global support could include shared safety guidelines, funding for facilities, and research on student health and well-being. Okay, why do you specifically talked about health? If I can know, how is eating outside related to health of a child, health of students? Okay, all right. Now, great. So I'm very happy, Ursulina, you are very active and you are actively responding in the chat. So, global support could include shared safety guidelines, funding for facility research and on student health. Amazing. Now, when we look at the answers, now we are not only looking from the perspective of one city, rather, we are focusing from different countries' angle and we are trying to build a policy, build a set of policies which will help to address different issues. Now, okay. So the last one is what exactly is global perspective. So global perspective is when you look at a particular perspective from different angles internationally and frame a response. That is your global perspective. Great. I hope you all have now understood and have got a clear understanding of what is local, global, and national perspective. Now, for today's class, this is the worksheet that you will all have to solve. Now, to solve this worksheet, you will need to join Google Classroom where this worksheet is uploaded. It should be solved. Okay, I'm just going to quickly share the worksheet with you. I'll show you on the screen how it looks like. Okay, so this is your worksheet which you will find on Google Classroom. And if you look at the instructions are clearly given over here. What you need to do is you need to read each question carefully, think about the perspective level, local, national or global. Guys, are you able to see the worksheet or do you want me to reshare it? I don't know. I can't see the worksheet on my different other device. If you all can see, I can see. What about you all? Yes, it's seen. So you have to read the question. You have to think about the perspective level, write your answers using sentence starters provided, give specific example to support your points. Part A, which is 10 minutes, it will take around 45 minutes for you to solve this worksheet. And we will be, so this is point A, question 2, you have to answer this question. Then perspective analysis question, it will end up taking 25 minutes of yours. Then give one advantage. Okay, then the next part is your part C, that is critical thinking and comparison. It will take around 10 minutes. And yeah, I have also, you will look at how to write good perspective answers, what is expected, and before you start solving this worksheet, make sure it is submitted, it is uploaded by Friday, so that you can, I get enough time to go through these worksheets before we meet again for our Saturday's class. So I asked this Saturday, and to join these Saturdays member only YouTube live, you need to click on the join button over here, join this channel as a member, and then you can actually join these IGCSE Global Perspective Stalwarts Batch. I hope I'm clear until here. If any question, if any kind of question you have, you can let me know now in the chat. And I've also, in case if you're willing to join A Star Legacy cohort, it will be live one-to-one classes. Not one-to-one, I would say. There will be around 5 students. It's personalized class on Google Meet that I'll be conducting, and we will be wherein I will be hand-holding students. My limited cohort, I cannot obviously accommodate many people, limited number of students, focused. That is the reason I'm calling it A Star Legacy cohort. If you have any question, you can let me know in the chat now. Otherwise, we will disperse for today. And I hope it was learned a lot of things, especially understood the perspectives, how to look at it, what exactly is expected. All right, learners. So it's 58:28. We still have around 1.5 minutes. So if you have any questions, you can feel free to put it in the chat. Any question related to any batch, today's topic, worksheets. Okay, where to find these worksheets? I will also pin this Google Classroom link in the chat. Now, guys, there is one feedback for you all. I saw many students have joined the work class, but they are not actively uploading their work. Every global perspective, Google Classroom allows me to only enroll 250 students in Google Classroom. Now, if I observe that there are students who are inactive and they are not responding, they're just there for the sake of being there in the classroom, those students will be removed because we cannot exceed the capacity of 250 students in one single Google Classroom. So if you really are serious about getting an A star or developing the right skills through global perspective subject, only then I will recommend you all to join this classroom. Otherwise, it's not worth it for you to invest your time and energy in joining this classroom. I'm pasting the link over here, Google Classroom link. for you all to join. You can join as a student, but you have to be active. Okay. I'll just wait for a few seconds so that you can you see the link? I will unpin this one. Where did it go? Okay. I hope you can see the link, Google Classroom link over here. All right. So see you in Saturday's batch. Until then, take care and bye bye. Good night.